Those are some great panels to follow. Thanks so much for having us today, Nina. I think something that's clearly emerged from those two conversations that being a woman is very rewarding, but really damn hard, right? And I think it's particularly hard when you're operating in a male-dominated environment. That's the reason why if you're a female founder or entrepreneur, you're more likely to face a number of challenges that male counterparts don't. Everything from funding, like the first panel talked about, to facing imposter syndrome, to struggling to find a voice in a community. And that's before even taking into account things like the way that your identity as a woman intersects with race, disability, sexuality, and other additional responsibilities like motherhood. So that's the reason why women are 55% more likely than men to cite fear of going in alone as the main reason why they haven't set up a business. On top of that, only 39% of women are confident in their ability to set up a business compared to 55% of men. Despite these challenges, though, we've come a really long way, and more women than ever are setting up businesses. And it's a really good thing because women-led executive teams are 39% more likely to financially outperform. So today will be talking about some of the challenges associated with setting up a business as a woman, also some of their awards. We're going to be talking to these three wonderful women who I'll introduce shortly about their stories, the importance of inclusion and community, and how to build confidence in an environment where you don't see yourself represented. So before we begin, I'm Maliha Shoaib. I'm a reporter at Vogue Business, and I cover diversity and inclusion. And I'll let our lovely panel quickly introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Betty Bachz. I'm the founder of a luxury eyewear brand called Moy Atelier. I also consult for a lot of other brands in the luxury sector. Yeah. Also, I am both the CEO and creative director of my own brand.
Hi everyone, my name is Kanyinsola Onalaja and I am the creative director and founder of Onalaja. Onalaja is a women's wear brand and we focus on demi-couture, hand-embroidered looks, hand-painted, hand-beaded, all inspired by my Nigerian heritage. The ethos of the brand is really just inclusion in terms of sizing, so we go from an extra, extra small to a 4XL. It's about building community and just creating pieces that make women feel confident within themselves.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm not a female founder, just to say, but I'm the head of community for By Women Built, a community started by my founder, Sahar, who actually started Coffee Republic. I don't know if any of you heard of it. It was a while back, and this is her sort of passion project. And it started in lockdown. She stumbled upon this tweet that was, not all of us can invest in women, not all of us can mentor them, but we can all buy from them. And that literally sparked this idea of hers, which is like, let's push female founders into the spotlight and let's encourage people to buy from them. And I met Sahar quite early on into her journey, and I've been building this community with her from the start, and we have now over 1,200 female founders in our community, which is really amazing. But obviously you guys are the stars here, the female founders, so I'll pass back over. Yeah.
You know, having said that, Maddie, I actually wanted to start with you to kind of frame our conversation. Can you tell me a little bit more about some of the challenges that female founders face?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one. I think obviously it depends on your sort of personal circumstance and what stage of your business you're in, but I think a lot of the conversations we have with our female founders are confidence and like really finding where that comes from. And you pulled up that stat from the NatWest Rose Review, which was, 39% of women like feel confident in their capabilities compared to 56% of men, which is just crazy. There's a stat here, there's an issue. And so our mission in By Women Built is basically driving that confidence in women. Where does that come from? If we don't shine a light on the female founders that have already started their businesses, like you two amazing people here, and Mia, who started Cult Mia, Nina, who started Cult Mia, if we don't shine a light on the female founders that already exist out there, then how can we support the ones that are growing? And I think in the UK, we've got a massive issue as well. It's like, I think or 5.9% of women start businesses in the UK compared to 15% in Canada, which is crazy. Like, why is the UK less? What are we missing here? And I think the point of what we're doing is just driving these founders into the spotlight, really shining a light on who they are, working with consumers, working with retailers, working with government to push them out there and show young women that they can do it too, supporting you guys. And yeah, just doing that.
Now, Betty, I want to hear a little bit more about your story. What was it like for you setting up your brand? What were some of the challenges and how did you overcome them?
Actually started my career in finance, typically a very traditionally male-dominated industry, where I have to prove every day that I could play with the boys and win. It get tired eventually, so I left my cushy job in finance as a hedge fund analyst, and I wanted to go into something a bit more female focused, so I chose fashion, thinking that it will be radically different, thinking that I will be accepted. Obviously, I was completely wrong. It was just the same. Being an entrepreneur, especially a female entrepreneur, in the beginning, you get asked a lot of questions, and there's a lot of people that doubt you. I was always asked, oh, so who is your business partner? So did your dad help set you up? And I feel those questions were not given my male counterparts. And you get put in a box right away. So you're either creative or you have a business mindset, but you can't do both, which I find is really mind-boggling, because women, we are really known to multitask. And that is what we do. We put on a lot of hats. So for them to not believe that a female is capable to both be the creative and the CEO is quite, it's quite crazy.
And Kanyinsola, tell me a little bit more about your story as well, some of the challenges that you faced. I know we were talking a little bit about imposter syndrome yesterday.
Yeah, I think for me, imposter syndrome is definitely something that I've struggled with. Also, most of the times I'm in a room and I feel like, am I supposed to be here? Like, am I worthy of being here? And having to ask yourself that, okay, I know what I'm bringing to the table. This is what I have to offer. This is what I have to build, is something that you constantly have to tell yourself. So I'm Nigerian. So in 2014, I actually moved back. I started my brand and then I moved back to Nigeria. So I've had building my brand in Nigeria and facing the infrastructure and all the different things that comes with building a brand in, I guess I would say, Africa. And then moving back last year to England and having some sort of stability and being able to kind of see the different opportunities that are available to me. So yeah, I think apart from dealing with imposter syndrome, you have things like funding, which I know we touched on before, but also just networking and finding people that are like-minded, or finding women that are also going through the same experiences as you, or have different stories that they could, or insights that they could share. And yeah, I think networking, mentorship as well, all in that category.
Let's keep going on that sort of train of thought. Maddie, we were talking about community earlier. What kind of role does that play in helping female founders?
I think it's huge. Like, as you've just said, like, so many female founders in our community are like doing it alone, completely alone, starting it by themselves, running an entire business completely by themselves. You know, I've spoken to a few brands in here. Luckily, you've got a cousin, you've got a sister by your side, but actually it can be a really, really lonely experience. And I think having that community that we've built, it actually came out of nothing. The point of Buy Women Built was to be a consumer movement, connecting with consumers. But actually what snowballed was like this instant connection that these women had. Sahar started with a WhatsApp group of 40 people, and it just snowballed into this beautiful community of people sharing and being vulnerable with each other and sharing all the challenges and struggles. And I think that's the beauty when you bring people together that are on the same journey, which a lot of the founders in our community are. They're all consumer-based brands that are all trying to get to the same point. and they've all had that same journey, whether they're right at the end, like, you know, a Nails Inc. who's just sold, or, you know, someone who's literally just starting like a 0 to 50K turnover business. They're all on that same journey, and sharing those challenges is honestly so important. And we've also coined a term in Buy When Built called clubbing together. We just took over the entire 5 windows of Whole Foods Market with our community, and one of those windows alone costs £18,000 to rent out, and that's without the creative. And what we did is we brought 60 of our brands that were in Whole Foods together, took over all 5 windows, had their faces, their names in all the windows, and they all paid, you know, lower than £2,000 to be in all 5 of those windows, a campaign that would have cost probably £150,000 to do. So I think it's that strength of like uniting these women together all on the same journey and championing that out into the world. So that's what we try and do. And I really hope you guys will join our community too, because we don't have you. And I was like, no, I can't believe it. But yeah, I'll pass it over to you guys now.
I think that's really the thing though about womanhood, is that community's so deeply built into what being a woman is. It's like the best part, you know? So being able to tap into that, when you're in any industry, even as a journalist, when I was starting out, I found a group of women of color in journalism, and that was how I, you know, got a bunch of advice early on. And I think no matter which industry you're in, you can really tap into who you are and find other people who come from similar backgrounds and really learn from them. But yeah, Kanyinsola, like, your brand, inclusivity is a huge part of it, right? Tell me a little bit more about how really being authentic in your inclusive values has helped you build a community.
So I want to take it to more of a personal side. So I've always grown up around African women, and a lot of the times we all have different body shapes, and finding things that complement us has been a struggle sometimes. Also with myself personally, I've like yo-yoed. One minute I'm a size 8, next minute I'm a 16. So finding a middle ground where I can find things no matter what size I am, and feeling confident, feeling sexy, feeling like myself, was really why I created what I created. I want to be able to walk into a room and say, okay, I can sit up with my head high, shoulders high, and I'm feeling great about myself. So I think in terms of that, that's why inclusivity is so, so important to me.
And what about you, Betty? What does inclusivity mean to you, and how do you sort of exercise it in owning a brand?
I think I need to give some context, because eyewear is so particular. It's not just ready-to-wear or fashion. The industry that I work in back in 2017 when I started was a market where one company dominated. It's called Luxottica, and they license all of the big brands from Chanel to Balenciaga, Ray-Ban, all of them. So when I started my brand, it was a time where I couldn't tell a Chanel eyewear from a Balenciaga eyewear. They will look identical. They were all black, mid-sized, or something called unisex, which is back then meant that menswear that women could wear. And in eyewear, that would translate into something, it was designed for men, but something that women could put on. So,
The world works, isn't it?
yeah. Our mission actually started to create something we call true unisex, that we wouldn't sway into the masculine, we wouldn't sway into the black, chunky designs, and actually create something that was designed for faces and not for gender. And to touch on my background, I'm Chinese, and we have something called in the eyewear called Asian fit, because most of the glasses that's produced in Western countries will just fall off us. So we need adjustable nose pads. And that is something we also have to think about when we talk about inclusivity. Because we all built differently, but if we start designing for faces instead of gender and race, yeah, we can create something that is truly unique.
And Maddie, I want to come to you next. What are the sort of systemic and infrastructural changes that you would like to see to help both the number of female-founded businesses that we see, but also the success of those businesses?
Yeah, I think it starts, with female founders, but I mean, the By Women Built community over-indexes on equality and diversity. It's really amazing what female founders can do. We obviously have a different strive, and women out there from all different backgrounds actually have that hunger to do things, which is really exciting. And I think with that community, there's sort of two areas that we think that we can try and change that systemic issue. And one is access to markets, like getting that accessibility more, spotlighting you guys really loud and clear, using our kite mark, our logo, to be like a national, even further than that, global recognition for female founders, so people go and spend more and see the power of female founders, working with retailers like Whole Foods, doing these activations, bringing you to the forefront. Also, having buyer days, having trade shows for women, all those different things to really like elevate the value of what every single one of you is doing. And I think on the second half, it's like entrepreneurial education, starting right at the beginning. We've just launched this digital boost course, which was founded by Sherry Katu. She did Founders for Schools, and we've partnered with them to do this 6-week free course, which will touch at least 600 women this year, aspiring female founders. So if any of you in the room are aspiring female founders, do look into that, because it's free. It's 6 weeks long, and we have our entire By Women Built community in that. So 20 of our founders are actually on the curriculum teaching how to build their business from start to finish, or start to at least business plan. And then 200 of our community have given their top tips. So it's really about educating those younger people to actually start and change the whole narrative around this whole thing. Because as you said earlier, I think it's Monica. Is it Monica? Yeah, as you said earlier, I was just saying it's not spoken about enough, and it's about changing that narrative and really driving that forward. And just today, I just got a message from our group chat. A girl that was 12 who's just started her business contacted By Women Built and said, I've seen your community and I really want to be part of it. And we've never had someone that young reach out to us, but we are actually making change like right now today. And it's down to all of you incredible female founders and situations like this. Thank you so much, Nina, for organising this. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Do you also have any learnings that could apply from other industries into sort of a fashion business?
I think it's different. I think for our fashion brands, it's definitely like a slightly different narrative. You can't necessarily rely on like a big retailer like, Tesco or Ocado or Waitrose. You've got your Selfridges, and that's it, really. You have to really be independent. So I think, just being together with lots of different people with different industries, really networking and understanding women. The one amazing thing from our community is 98% of the women in our community started their brand for a personal need. So they literally had a need, they solved it. They weren't trying to look for this like business and make loads of money. They actually had a problem that they needed to solve, and they went out there and did that. And anyone can build a business, and that's what we really believe, and that's what we're trying to send to women. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
And it goes back to what the first panel was talking about women really being problem solvers in that way.
Yeah, resourceful, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what about you, Kanyinsola? What advice would you give to a woman hoping to set up a business?
I think you have to determine, obviously, what your brand ethos is. What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What message do you want to put out there? I think once you have that, that's the foundation, that's the start. Showing up is another thing, because starting a business is very tough. You have a lot of hard moments. You have a lot of moments where you're like, I'm about to throw the towel in, and why you started or your brand values are what really kind of keep you going. In terms of fashion, I would say you also have to determine what kind of fashion business or brand do I want to be. Do I want to be direct to consumer? Do I want to have wholesale? Because those are completely two different avenues and require two different things from you. If you want to do both, you can do both, but you also have to mentally structure your mind to be able to, I guess, deal with both the things that come with having both. I think those are the two main things. But honestly, I would just say, be yourself, show up, because that's half of it.
And what about you, Betty? Any advice?
Just to bounce off that, I totally agree. I think I always say that unless you have something to say in this industry, because it's so competitive, you shouldn't do it. And with that, I think also you should be bold. And I wish someone told me this earlier in my career. As women, we are used to not chase people, not to ask for things, not be pushy or be seen as difficult. But in business, you absolutely must be bold. If you don't ask, you don't get. And for women, if we don't fight for it, it's not just going to come to us. And another advice I have is that you have to be resilient. You have to grow a thicker skin because you're going to have a lot of rejection. And that can come from buyers, press, investors, all sides of business. I think it's just important to remember that you don't need all the doors open. You only need one. So you just have to keep going. And with that, my last advice is something I really struggle with. Is that it's okay to fail. Being a good girl, a straight A student, someone from a model minority background, I have that sentiment really like amplified. I feel that we have a lot of pressure on ourselves, which can be so crippling. I think we need to allow ourselves to fail and give ourselves permission to fail, to actually achieve the things that we want. And only with that, we're able to go forward. And it's important to think that even if you fail, you have this invaluable experience because you tried.
Amazing. Well, just to quickly recap what we discussed, we've talked a lot about how confidence and imposter syndrome and feeling like you can't put yourself out there or ask for things, those are some of the biggest challenges that female founders face. I think the really good news is the community and leaning into each other, everyone in this room. That's what we have going for us as women, and it's something that we can absolutely continue to tap into. So thank you so much, everyone. I think we have time for a few questions, all right? Potentially? Yeah? Okay.
I actually wanted to just speak about what you said. I think it's so important. Obviously, the topic of imposter syndrome comes from the fear of failure. And I think until you allow yourself to think, that is a necessity to actually break whatever thing you need to break, whatever notion or whatever it is, it has to happen. And I noticed that the way I changed that was having to give advice, and then having to follow my advice. My daughter has a huge problem in failing. She cannot accept it. And I said, well, failing is the only way you know now how not to do it. And if anything, you're like closing doors and you'll find therefore the right one. So how do you really would say it's the best way to advise other people in how to fail? Would you just say you have to be more vulnerable with your brand, or you think it's an issue PR-wise? Like, how do we also show up authentically?
So for me, failure is extremely uncomfortable. Like, it makes me want to crawl and not come out. But then I think it's important for us to remind each other and ourselves that we only grow when we are uncomfortable.
I definitely would agree with that. I struggle with failure, and then, the concept of failure, and also being an overthinker definitely doesn't help the situation either. But I'm learning to just stop and actually just stay in the moment and think, okay, did it kill me? It didn't. What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? As you said, it's I guess an example of what not to do for next time. So at least now I'm crossing my T's and dotting my I's, and I know, okay, this is the direction I should follow. I've definitely had more fails than wins, and I think I'm now confident and proud in saying that, because that's what's gotten me to being here and growing my identity, or what I think my identity is.
I just have something really quickly to add. We had Laura Forbes, who used to be the life coach for Charlotte Tilbury, come and talk to our community, and she really reframed imposter syndrome. She said, your mind isn't meant to be your supporter. Like, your brain is actually not there to be your champion. It's there to protect you. And that is the reason it tells you so many guarding things and limiting beliefs, because it's actually just there to protect you. It's just its natural way. So if you start to think of it and just go, oh, thank you so much for like protecting me and looking after me, but I'm okay, I've got this. and calling imposter syndrome the imposter experience, because it's actually not a syndrome. You don't have it all the time. It's just something that we experience. It was actually really powerful, and loads of our founders took that. And one other thing, sorry, I'm rambling on, but Kim from Humble Crumble was saying it was her actually imposter syndrome helps her in her business. It actually makes her better. It makes her think through things more. Yeah, exactly. And she said, like, at the beginning of her business, she was going to build Humble Crumble on alcohol-infused crumble. And she was like, thank God I didn't put loads of pounds into this idea. Like, thank God I didn't write a 5-year business plan about this, because I went to the stand and I was doing a tiny little stand and I started so small and everyone was like, ooh, I don't want alcohol-infused crumble. That sounds horrible. And she was like, oh God, like, thank God I didn't put all my money and time into this. So I think it's just about realizing that sometimes that is not actually limiting you and just believing in your idea. And imposter syndrome is actually imposter experience is actually sometimes a good thing.
First of all, thank you all so much. This has been so insightful for me, and I'm sure everybody else. Bit of context, I'm a small business founder myself, have a wellness brand. We had a talk at the beginning, of course, about funding, and I think a lot of us, when we think about funding, it's, you have to be at a certain point. You're talking 6-7 figures, etc. For all of you here, or for you guys on the panel, you would have started from zero or from square one, I guess. What advice perhaps would you give to a small business founder in terms of, funding and self-funding and bootstrapping, and what have your experiences been with that, and how did you, I guess, push through those sort of early days of perhaps not having the immediate sort of VC backing?
I think sometimes I think you need to take a leap of faith before you're ready, and that is something I would say when it comes to funding. The golden advice would be like, just prepare for everything or research everything, but it's not realistic. Especially it happens so fast in the beginning. When it rolls so fast. For me, it's just, again, being persistent in your pitching. You'll pitch to anyone that will hear you. So we're not just talking about VC funding, we're talking about angel investors, we're talking about family and friends that will be most likely your first investors. And it's just keep pitching all the time. And once you get a yes, take it. Don't wait. Just do it.
So I don't have an investor, so I've been kind of doing things. I'm still in the early phases, I would say. This is a tough one because I think it's something I'm still dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And I would just say, take one thing at a time, because we all want to do everything all at the same time, and we have to just learn to prioritize what's important to get us to where we need to get to next. So whether it be, sometimes I might not be able to invest in marketing because I have production coming up. So I need to see what's in front of me and then take that. And usually the doors open. Once you take one step and you keep going, the doors open. Family and friends have been very helpful. And I think sometimes in the beginning, you also don't want the extra noise. Sometimes you just need the small investments to be able to get you to, I guess, the store or to the product or to the marketing that you want to get to. But I think just take one thing at a time and prioritize, I would say.
Cool. Thank you so much, everyone.